Hi, Karen from Quantum Heart Awakening. Today we will do a twin flame reading. All right, I'm trying to keep these simple as they start to build rather quickly. So we'll start low and go slow. Okay, as always, we have the masculine on the left, the feminine on the right, and the union energies down the center. I'm going to remind you every single time we do any of these masculine, feminine, twin flame readings to open your lens of listening to your internal counterparts, right? Your internal masculine, your internal feminine, and the union internally between the both of your internal parts. Just want to reiterate that because it's so easy to get swept up in the external narratives. And it's really important that we work on inner union to bring about outer union. And outer union gets to look like many different things. It's not just outer union with one individual. It could be a union with a mission, with a purpose. It could be a union with an organization. It could be your divine counterpart, but you could also have a divine counterpart in the spirit realm. We are never going to know what it looks like until we're in it. And you don't hear that often, so that's why I'm saying it. I think it's really important that we keep our feet on the ground with this work and we put I hate to say it like this, but we put the work first. Let me say it in a different way. We put integrity and sincerity first. We put our relationship with Source, or rather our frequency of Source, the Source consciousness first. Take that with a grain of salt. If it doesn't resonate, you can let it go right away. Okay, I say these things because I think it helps calibrate our expectations. It helps calibrate our system. It helps us hear alternate routes to our inner work. And I think it's really supportive in staying balanced and tempering our emotional, um, emotional and mental reactions, but also expectations. It allows us to hold two ideas, or maybe even more, at the same time, which actually stretches our it how can I say this? It finely tunes our ability to hold polarities. And so it's actually training you to hold this alchemical union of opposites, which is the core of what kind of alchemy is, right? We are being asked to use this vessel to alchemize various things. And part of being a good vessel is being able to tolerate that polarity between two alchemical substances long enough so that they actually have time to blend and mix and alchemize into this third thing, right? We start with the one substance and the second substance, and through this alchemical process, we get a third substance. And this could look like anything. This could look like wisdom. It usually is wisdom, right? That's the thing. But it also, again, is mirroring the relationship of the inner feminine and inner masculine, right? The first thing, the second thing, and then combined together, there's this third thing of this union energy. And most people don't have a reference point yet for that third thing, that union energy. So this is why it's so important to work on your inner alchemy before. Let's take all this with a grain of salt, because sometimes that's not how life happens. Sometimes you meet this person, they ignite your spiritual awakening, and then you're left like sifting through the pieces. So let's be really honest about the reality of these things. However, in a dream world, we would take responsibility for self, then before we could take responsibility for any sort of external things that we're involved in. But that's also just not reality. So again, we are holding the polarity right there of like, Yes, this is what it would be great if it was, and it wasn't like that. So we're holding our experience and holding the highest and best possible interpretation and I don't want to say goal, but end point, I guess. Um, I don't like that either because this journey is ever unfolding. All right, I'm just going to stop talking and get to the reading, but you get the point. You understand why tempering our energy, tempering our emotions is so important so that we can actually hear the work instead of being triggered by the work, right? And that too, I'm going to be devil's advocate and just say that too is also the work, right? If you get pulled off your center from whatever part of the journey you're on, that's exactly what's showing up on your side of the street, right? And so then you get to be sovereign and accountable for what is showing up by being micro present with what that thing is without trying to reach for more when you already have a full plate. Okay. Let's see where we go. All right, let's start with the masculine energy on the left. All right, masculines are leaning deeper into this practice of temperance. It's interesting, I did mention temperance and this ability to taper expectations and sift through the projections of what the ego is telling us we want and need versus what the soul knows that we need. There's something very nuanced about that process. And so masculines, we have this match card. It says, where do I give and receive? So there's something here that the masculine energy, excuse me, I need my tea today. I'm recording this a little early. Hold on. Oh, that's really hot. Okay. Masculines are coming into this awareness of, oh, there's reciprocity. And maybe they are confronting moments where they were not in reciprocity or couldn't be, or they couldn't be, and there was very harsh repercussions from making those choices. We have this stalk card, this mountain lion here. It asks the very important question: is my pursuit both honorable and focused? It's funny because I also mentioned this of that our work is to be able to stand in integrity despite what we have access to. So despite where we are or how well managed we are, can we be authentic? Can we be true to what's rising in the moment? Right? When we pretend to be somewhere we are not, we miss out on so much opportunity to do authentic, honest work. Is my pursuit both honorable and focused? So this could be a tough polarity to hold. So the polarity being integrity, honor, sincerity, focused, penetrative, concise energy versus chaotic, dishonorable, lack of integrity, taking and not giving anything in return, lack of reciprocity. Can the masculine hold these two things? Vibrate out the emotional debris that rises to meet that experience. And only after they're through that process, then ask the question again, is my pursuit both honorable and focused? Right? Because when we ask the question, we may get answers that we are not prepared to hear. Or let me say it more, even more focused, that the ego is not prepared to hear. The ego is prepared to fight you, right? The ego is prepared to go to battle, to validate and reaffirm every action that you've taken thus far, whether they've been honorable or dishonorable, whether they've been supportive or whether they've nourished growth or nourished destruction. The ego is going to protect itself to save face, right? That's what the ego does. So the masculines are confronting their ego head on, eye to eye. If you look at this mountain lion, look at the stare. It's directly forwards. They're directly looking this stuff in the eyeballs to assess where they're at. Can they access enough separation from the parts of self that took these dishonorable, chaotic, crazy actions? Can they honor that at that time they did not know better, so they could not do better? Can they sit in that discomfort long enough until they vibrate out that pain, until they let the ego kick and scream long enough so that they can get it out of their system, right? Can they hold the tantrum? Can they let their ego tantrum long enough until they're done, right? It's like a little kid at a store who just wants a cookie, and maybe they're exhausted, maybe they didn't have a proper meal, maybe mom's been dragging them all over the place all day long. At some point that little kid has a breaking point and they have to tantrum. Maybe they lay on the ground and they kick their legs and punch the air and they're just vibrating it out. They hit their threshold. Can the masculines allow themselves that level of vulnerability to vibrate it out? Because it is only on the other side of that vibration can they access, okay, what does reciprocity actually look like? What did I do? How do I feel about it? And what would I have done had I known better? It's a really beautiful message. Hold on, I need another sip of my scalding hot tea. By the way, aren't these back cards super fun? I forget what the deck is called. I could probably find it somewhere. Wait, do I have it? Yeah, I don't know what this is. It's a Prairie Majesty Oracle. I just think they're so fun. And I like how they have a title, a question, and then like the animal or the plant or whatever the image is. There's kind of multi-layers and there's a lot of symbolism in them, which is really cool. Okay. That was a pretty dense start for masculine energy. So let's just honor that they are being called to do this profound, nuanced discernment work. They're, what's interesting, what's coming through for me right now is that this is all coming online for masculine energy because they've been able to access or integrate enough of their internal feminine that a lot of this awareness is coming online, right? Maybe their intuition is not at 100%, but maybe it's at 40 or 57 or 62. Maybe they're accessing enough of it where they're able to access a new interpretation of what has happened in the past to allow that information to inform them of where they are in the present moment so they can take action in the future. This is not a small thing. I know I talk about it kind of quickly and easily, but this is like massive, massive work. It's pretty freaking incredible. So let's just honor that the internal and external masculine energy are doing this wonderful, blessed accountability work. It's funny, as I say that, let's move into these cards, these smaller cards down here. As I say that, we have the Medicine Mother. I can't stop staring at this card. And under it says, honor your inner knowing. The beautiful thing about this message is that it's implying that the masculine has inner knowing to honor. What a beautiful It's like they just won one race in a long track meet or something. I used to do track and field in high school, and when you go to a meet, there's a million events going on all at the same time, and it's like masculines just won one of the events. They might have, 15 more events, but they won one. This is fueling their confidence. This is allowing them to this success is pushing them forward on the path. It's giving them a bit of confidence so they can take one more step. Always one more step. We never get ahead of ourselves. We're always looking at what's directly in front of us on the path. Then we have the broken arrow. It says, embrace the energy of peace. We have hold space, shift your perception, set your sights higher. Meaning divine masculines are finally realizing they're worthy. It just wanted to come out of my mouth. They're worthy to not be a scrub anymore. And I don't use that language, so I don't know where that came from. But they're realizing they're worth more than, gutter behavior. They're worth more, and it's coming online. It's like the lights are switching on, and they're like, oh my God, I can see where I was. And because I can, the mere fact that they can see it means they are no longer there. This is a wild, beautiful thing. Then we have the magic guardian, unlock the magic within. Yes, divine masculines. We have Earth Mother, which you got this in the last reading. Feel loved and comforted. Masculine energy in the face of the ego's torment, in the face of the chaos of the ego, they have access to their internal parent, this motherly love. They're allowed to, they have the awareness that they are allowed to receive love in their chaos, in their bad decisions, in their, fill in the blank. They're allowing themselves to receive comfort in times of chaos instead of flagellating themselves, right? Instead of shaming or punishing themselves for screwing up or for doing something that was dishonorable. They're now able to use the information, right? They've individuated enough from their ego that they can actually use this information for good, for something useful. And so again, they're circling back around and they're asking themselves this question, but this time they can actually discern, where do I give and receive? They can discern that this requires balance, that this requires equal reciprocity. They can discern where they were not able to reciprocate in the past. Okay, the only other thing I'll say here, and I have it off camera because I just didn't like the visual, to be honest. We have this change your perception card, this beyond illusions in the reverse. So yes, and almost, it's wild. Doesn't it look like a spider, sort of? A spider in a web with like this beautiful third eye in the center? Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just sitting with that imagery. Yeah. No one said this was easy, right? This accountability, it's one thing to be able to identify the problem. It's another thing to believe that you're worthy of a solution. So divine masculines may be struggling to, again, change their perception from unworthy to worthy. That's not a small jump. That's a massive, massive undertaking. So they're struggling at certain moments to see beyond the illusion, right? Their ego is telling them I'm throwing these random, they're not all related, but I'm just going to throw these random ideas out there. Their ego is telling them they're not worthy. Their ego might be telling them they're causing damage everywhere they go, like a bull in a china shop, that they can't access their hearts, that they wouldn't be safe if they do access their hearts, that they're not safe if they do stand in their vulnerability and truth, even if it's messy. This is what the masculine is confronting, these illusions, these limiting belief, all of these fears, right? The false evidence appearing real. They're believing the false crap, right? Okay, I've spent 15 minutes on the masculine. Let me move to the feminine. Let's clear that energy. I'm just going to clean it off with my little feather here, my little turkey feather. It's not so little, actually. It just feels like really dense. Okay. Feminine energy is a little flowier. It's a lighter. So this is, this will shift. Okay. Okay. We have this takeover card and shelter. Shelter asks the question, how can I be in service? Right? Feminine energy is always working with worthiness. That's their core wound. Just to remind you, masculines are working with vulnerability and being able to stand in it. Feminines are working with worthiness and being able to stand in it. So it's very easy for feminine energy to identify, or to associate their worthiness with their service they share with the world. This in an exalted state can be beautiful. In a shadow state, this can be an unhealthy binary. Essentially an unhealthy version of that would be, I am not worthy unless I am in service, right? But again, what do we always say, or what do I always say? That if your service does not extend first to yourself, your service is incomplete and should not be entered into. Until you could be in service to yourself first, it is not useful and can be incredibly damaging to be in service at the expense of self. That's really important. Okay. And then we have this takeover card. We have this question, is it time to reclaim and reinvent the structures in my life? So this is interesting because we're going from, maybe we're breaking that binary. So maybe we're going into that place of, oh, I'm not worthy unless I'm in service to everyone else around me. My kids, my partner, my family, at work, in your community or in your religious community, whatever that service looks like to you. We're breaking that association to, oh, well, let's see, is it time to reclaim and reinvent the structures in my life to support my self-love, to support me being in service to self first? Maybe those structures look like, okay, I'm going to build in 1 hour a day for myself, and I'm going to ask my partner, I'm going to ask my family, or my community to help support these structures by asking for help, right? In a way, the feminine is also confronting these egoic moments, these egoic crossroads where it might be really hard to ask for help, especially if you've been a feminine for so long that has prided themselves on being able to do everything for everyone all the time. And that's a very common feminine thing in this patriarchal world, right? We take on everything. I just got the reference now. It says take over. That's really interesting. And then we have the animal, it says it's a black-footed ferret. And when I think of ferrets, they're always like on the move, and they're always curious, and they're always like getting into things. And so, where, maybe I'm going to pose the question, where in your life are you micromanaging? And where in your life would it be supportive for you to let go or give up some of that control? Yes, it will be hard, but think long term. You know what? I'm going to invite you to journal about this and make a list. Take a piece of paper and put, like a line down the center with a cross, up top. And on one side, write needs. And then on the other side, write wants. And really drop into, okay, is this actually a need? Do I need to be the one to pick up so-and-so from wherever and bring them here? Or can someone else do that? Be really strict with yourself and see what you can give up from your plate. Allow people to help you. This is another very tough thing for feminine energy, especially if you're older, because, like my mother's generation, you were the more valuable you were, your value was linked with your ability to put everyone else first. It was like applauded, right? So to break those really intense binary thinking, it takes so much. And you have to remember, for my mother and my aunts, it might have taken them 40, 50 years to get that way. So it's going to take some dismantling and some time and some presence to dismantle those structures. You know, it took 40, 50 years to get that way. It's not going to take 1 hour with a session with someone, or it's not going to even take 1 year to dismantle those patterns. It might take the rest of their life, but they're learning. I'm teaching my mom and my aunts about boundaries and about consent. Are they in consent with themselves? You know, my mom offered to do something and then she made a joke, kind of like, you know, that she didn't want to do it, but she did it anyway. And I'm like, honor your boundaries, mom. You know, like, I really call her to integrity in those moments of don't say yes when you really want to say no. Don't do it. It just costs you something, and there's no benefit in it. It benefits someone else and drains you. So it's a call to this higher integrity. All right, I might end up making this a part 1 and a part 2, but let's see how far we go. Then we have Lord, take charge with authority, right? Take charge in your life. Draw boundaries around your limits. Sage, be devoted and committed. This is interesting because it's calling you to be devoted and committed to self, to discerning what is supportive and what is draining you, right? We only have so much energy in the bank account. If we're spending it all, we're running on a deficit, right? We're in the overdraft. And when you overdraft your energetic currency, you will be in debt. And we don't want to be in debt in terms of energy, because it starts to deplete our relationships, our creativity, and eventually it comes out of our cell tissue. It starts to deteriorate our bodies. That's the energy anatomy stuff from Carolyn Mace. If you want to learn more about that, head to read or listen to her amazing audio called Energy Anatomy. Then we have Guardian Angel. You are not alone, right? Feminine energy collectively is learning how to take back their power and actually integrate this worthiness to actually be able to set these boundaries, to actually claim desire, claim their own truth, use their voice to speak truth, to speak truth to power. Wow. Okay, beautiful. Going to move on to union energies because I want to try to keep this into one video. We have this dabble. What would help me feel safe in opening up? Okay, this is such an awesome card for the union energies. So let's, again, polish our lens so that we can look at this narrative and this story through the lens of our internal feminine and our internal masculine. So what would help you feel safe opening up to your other polarity, to your inner masculine? What would your masculine need to feel safe to open up to your inner feminine? What do you need to feel safe? So write this question down and save it for a journal question one morning. Okay, then we also have the Stag, trust and thrive. We have ignite your passions, see your seeds grow, stay rooted and grounded, be brave and honest, trust your talents in these changing times. Okay. Sorry, I just almost got very nauseous here. That's very interesting. Let me think why. Hold on. Okay, what you can't see that I have underneath is this false twin flame. It's this intense change card. I think that's what I'm feeling in my gut. It's like a lot of churning. Okay, so let me just say the obvious message for those of you that need to hear someone say this. As you do this work, you have to keep alive a contingency plan, a contingency idea. If you're going to feed and invest in all these narratives, you also have to invest in this contingency narrative, which, and this may be hard to hear for some of you, that the person you are thinking and feeling is your twin may not actually be your twin. Or they may be your twin and they no longer consent to journeying further with you. Or they may not be your twin and you are being called to call your spirit back from places it doesn't belong so you can come into inner union and meet the person you're actually supposed to journey with and be in mission and purpose with. So I just need to say these things to keep us grounded and keep, it's like you want to keep the dog on the leash, right? You don't want to let the dog run rampant, and we don't want to let ourselves run crazy with these narratives because it's so easy to get deeply, deeply attached. So That's a bit of self-care and self-preservation to keep this contingency alive, that this person you may be projecting this narrative on is not your person. It's incredibly important that you do this. Okay. Where do we go now? Yeah, I mean, these are very straightforward messages. Again, in every reading, every single reading, we have some grounding card. Okay, I invite you, if you're feeling dysregulated, if you're feeling like you've been ripped off of your center, what would support you in grounding? You know, this can get really overwhelming. So pick 3 things, write them on a Post-it, and stick it on your mirror of what would help you ground. And maybe make one physical, make one mental, and make one like breath work or a prayer or something. I think it's good to have like a physical would be going outside and putting your bare foot on the earth, but not, you can't do that all the time, right? So maybe a mental spiritual one would be a prayer that you like, or a mantra or an affirmation. And then the breath work one might just be a breathing series that you can really do. You could do it at your work, at your desk at work. You know, there's other things here. So this is a huge message about staying grounded. Be impeccable with your word and your deed. Take accountability. Be honest. Be authentic. None of this work matters if we're not authentic, right? If we're wearing masks, the work we're doing is like getting flushed down the toilet because we're not actually being in our authentic truth. Okay, is there anything else? What's interesting is I forgot to talk about this twin card for the feminine energy. They are releasing their lower inner masculine. I've talked about this in other readings before, that growing up in this patriarchal culture, to feel safe, feminine energy may have stepped into this alpha masculine energy to survive, right? It's very common that happens, that feminine energy feels like they have to become this tyrant. And what happens internally is they become a tyrant over their inner feminine. So there's something here about they're actually releasing this and able to access this divine discernment. Okay, I think I might leave it there. There was so much in here. Is there anything else I want to say? You know, at some point too, we do the work and then we have to set it and forget it. And I'm looking at this card that says, see your seeds grow. It's this beautiful spring card. And you have these flowers and this bunny kind of leaping. Like, honor that you may have done impeccable work. And now it's time to just let the work, right? Let the seeds germinate. You know, maybe make sure you're watering them every once in a while. But at some point, you have to be hands off. Allow the alchemy to take place. You've been the alchemist. You know, you brought the ingredients there, and now you have to let the chemical reactions take place. Okay, that was great. I think I'm going to leave it there. Sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next one.